Good evening, everyone. I am going to call tonight's meeting to order. Thank you to those attending in person tonight and those staying engaged by watching our recording at a later time. The public is reminded that if they wish to speak during community comment, they will need to fill out a speaker form located in the lobby on the table and turn it in to Board Secretary Kim Coven, seated to my left. Comments will take place during the designated community comment portion of our agenda. And before we dive into tonight's agenda, I want to take a moment and introduce those seated at the table with me. To my right is Superintendent Matt Degner, Directors Pilcher Hyatt, Eastham, and Vice President Williams. To my left, Director Abraham is unable to attend tonight, and Directors Clausen and Finch, along with Board Secretary Kim Coven. And for those who may be new tonight, I am President Malone. And with that, we'll dive into tonight's agenda. And first up is our Education Showcase, which is Alexander Elementary School, the Ukulele Group, and Chris Gibson. Is there someone else doing another introduction?
Yeah, well, they're going to introduce themselves, but Sue Ellen Swain is their sponsor.
Sue Ellen Swain. Come on in, guys.
Hi everyone, I'm super excited to share our Falcon Ukulele Noodlers with you. This year we got a grant to purchase ukuleles for our school through the foundation, and we were able to start our very first ukulele club. And they named themselves the Noodlers on the first day because I was setting expectations, and I said, now noodling is when you fiddle around, and when I'm teaching, you can't noodle, but I promise I'll give you lots of time to noodle, and they named themselves the Falcon Ukulele Noodlers. So, Hazel is going to introduce our first song and tell you a little bit about the ukulele too.
Yeah, okay. In 1879, the sailing ship Ravenscraft arrived in Honolulu, Hawaii. With it came people from the Portuguese island of Madeira, who in the 1880s developed the ukulele by combining elements of two Madeiran instruments, the machete and the rajab. We are the Falcon Ukulele Noodlers, and we are here playing the Hawaiian
Well, thank you so much, Noodlers. Let's give them one more round of applause. Okay, next up on the agenda is community comment, but it doesn't appear we have any. So we will move to approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion?
Move approval of the agenda for tonight.
All right.
Second.
Secretary Coven, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. Thank you, Director Finch.
The yea vote, Kim.
All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Before we dive into the consent agenda, were there any questions regarding the bills from those who reviewed them? Okay. And are there any items that directors would wish to pull from tonight's consent agenda?
I'd like to pull item 8.
Item 8, the employee assistance program. Are there any others? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve consent agenda minus item 8.
I move approval of the consent agenda minus item 8.
Second.
All right. Board Secretary Coven, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
And that takes us to the Employee Assistance Program. Director Finch?
Thanks, President Malone. I wanted to pull this tonight to allow the administration and the opportunity to highlight this and to explain for this how this is different from the employee assistance program that we already have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Director Finch. And Board Secretary Colvin has a handout she can pass to you as well, so that we can see some of the information if she hasn't already. But we're really excited about this change for the benefit of our employees. We have had an employee assistance program in place for a number of years, but we've just kind of determined that it wasn't of the quality that we were looking for. So Superintendent Degner had a group that had spoke to them at the Grantwood AEA about Covenant Work Solutions and the work that they're doing. So this employee assistance program is a great opportunity to provide our employees with up to 8 therapy sessions or sessions for them or their family, which is a significant increase over currently we offer 3, so that's at no cost to the employee. Also, one thing that we're really excited about is that this works with our insurance, so that way it can continue on and our employees can get continuity of care working with the same individual. So we're excited about that as well. And then with this, there's also a portal that has other areas that cause kind of stress and kind of mental health concerns for our employees. So there's things related to financial and health and nutrition and other aspects. So we're really excited about those possibilities for people to have access to. There's life coaching available, so that's kind of a unique thing, but something that could help someone who's making some decisions. And then also there's 24-hour access to some care, or to have a hotline to reach out to. So those are some pieces. Les Finger and I have been working on this, and a team of people kind of looking at this for a while, and we just see this as one more thing, as we talked about. Teaching, working in schools, it's difficult, it's hard work, and there's times where some additional support is needed, and we just see this as a great opportunity to provide that additional support. And I'd let Les add anything else that he would like to as well.
As the chair of the insurance committee, one of the things that we've been hearing over the last year is the access to mental health, both for families and for students. And so this addresses all of our employees and their families from that perspective. As Nick mentioned, it does have the 24-hour access. They also have access to in-person meetings within a week is right now where they're scheduling, where if you're familiar with it, it's 3 months plus generally to get in to actually see a mental health professional. Now this isn't all about mental health, and I'm not saying that all employees would use this program for that, but that's the biggest need or the biggest users that we have seen. And so I'm really excited. The cost is actually pretty incremental over what we're paying right now. We're paying between $15,000 and $20,000 a year for our current program. This would come out about $50,000, but we're getting almost 3 times as much visits out of that first 8 before it actually goes over to your health insurance, plus all of these other pieces that Nick alluded to with the nutrition and life coaching and legal and financial stuff. So there's a lot more to it. They have clinics in several locations in eastern Iowa, and they are soon to be opening one for in-person visits here in Iowa City, they hopefully by early this fall. So I'm not able to tell us where or exact dates yet, but that's, so they're planning to grow and grow with us as we come on board.
That's great.
So the only thing I'll add before your consideration of this isn't necessarily specific to this item, but is another program we'll be bringing you eventually called Care Solace, which is really going to work as a connector for our students. And so as they're referencing some data points about timeliness in being seen by a provider that matches your demographic and somebody that you'd feel comfortable with, it's really a connector service that frees up those opportunities or creates those opportunities more quickly, and it also saves time from staff. You know, if we all Google mental health provider, we maybe click on the first one and start making phone calls. Well, this service will allow staff to save time on that, families to save time on that, and to get an appointment that more people are likely to be seen and follow through with. So please be on the lookout for that one too. That one's more directly focused on our kids, but this one we felt really solid about for our staff and the breadth of services that they could provide to us.
And I just want to make sure I understand that correctly. So this is not just for our employees, but it's also for their families. Is that correct? That's really amazing. Wonderful.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for pulling that. I don't know if any other directors have additional comments or questions. Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve item 8, Employee Assistance Program.
Second.
Thank you. Board Secretary Coven, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Okay, next up on our agenda are the public hearings, and the first one is City High School Phase 3 Addition Project. Vice President Williams.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the City High School Phase 3 Addition Project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on April 11th, 2023. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on April 12th, 2023. The district will receive bids on this project at 2:00 p.m. on May 11th, 2023 at the Facilities Management Conference Center, 1137 South Riverside Drive, Iowa City, Iowa. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on April 12th, 2023. Are there any questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public?
Hearing none, we will go ahead and close that public hearing and open the next public hearing, a proposed use of SAVE revenue for an athletic facility infrastructure project.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the district's proposed use of SAVE revenue for an athletic facility infrastructure project. Notice of the public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on April 14th, 2023. Are there any comments from the board? Are there any comments from the community?
Okay, hearing none, we will close that public hearing and move on to our final one, which is the proposed issuance of school infrastructure sales, services, and use tax revenue bonds.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the district's proposed issuance of approximately $76,500,000 school infrastructure sales, service, and use tax revenue bonds, Series 2023. Notice of the public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on April 14th, 2023. Are there any comments from the board? Are there any comments from the community?
Thank you, and that closes our public hearings for tonight. Next up is our policy review from Policy and Governance, the 800 series, Director Finch.
Thanks, President Malone. Tonight, we reviewed the 800 series, and some of the things that were highlighted included the change of policies for viewing video recordings and naming buildings and some emergency pesticide use. I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything to add to that.
No additional questions. Okay. Thank you so much. Next up is our equity update, and is that Superintendent Degner?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. Just maybe on a side item, we did have a chance to engage with some of our LGBTQ plus students and had a nice conversation and have some good thoughts to take back to the team and work through about some potential recommendations or just things for us to consider moving forward. Here in a little while, we'll talk about the legislative update and some of the recent legislation that we know is waiting the governor's signature and how that can also connect to some efforts that we need to look at moving forward. But tonight for the equity update, the focus is really about hiring protocols and what we're doing to just try to achieve our different goals in recruiting and retaining staff of professionals that really reflect our students. And we're not doing a lot of hiring this spring, but at the same time, we wanted to talk to you about what that looked like and some of the work that we're have underway in that area. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Proud.
All right, thank you again for the opportunity to share a little bit on some of our equity update related to hiring. So as we go through this today, we'll just kind of highlight a few of the practices we've had in place and some of the goals that we continue to have. So our hiring goals continue to be, as Superintendent Degner referenced, recruit and retain diverse and culturally proficient teachers, administrators, and staff, and then also find ways for those kind of underrepresented populations to have advancement within our system. And then one of our goals, although it's not formally stated, is just to continue to improve and modify grow our own initiatives. As we've had some great success recently with the Fellows Program, for example, that we're able to make happen due to some of the ESSER funding, then it's looking at what are some other ways that we could modify that to continue to see some success there. How can we provide other leadership opportunities and chances for people to be involved, so that way we can continue to have success in that program. I think we'll see, we've seen some of the people who are in that in year one get administrative jobs. I think we'll probably see some of that kind of going forward as we look into our next round of administrative hiring and leadership opportunities. So we're excited to see how we can continue to look at those and improve and modify them to continue to have some success. So a few of our successes that we would just highlight, as Eric mentioned last week, or Eric Howard talked about, we have 3 grow our own participants that will be moving into certified teaching positions next year. And that's exciting news for us. I actually had the opportunity. I am one of Aaron Martin, who's one of the candidates. I'm his supervisor for William Penn, oddly enough. So I was observing him teach a modified physical education class today, and it was fantastic. It was so great to see him in that opportunity. And then we had a dialogue about, where he sees himself as an educator in our system. And it's so exciting to see his enthusiasm for that, and then be looking at where he could be and have an impact on students. So it's great to see individuals who are making that progress. This next one, it's although it's a small number, we as Superintendent Degner alluded to, we're not hiring a ton of people right now, but we do always want to work on actively recruiting and then centrally hiring individuals. And when we do this, we specifically target finding some of the best talent that we can, and then also specifically target trying to find individuals of color to be in our classrooms. And so we've been able to successfully do that a little bit, looking specifically at our elementary classrooms, looking at targeting particular buildings that would benefit from that. And so we've had, although not a large number of people, we have done some central hiring that's very strategic and thoughtful in how we're doing and trying to get the best of the best. In one of these scenarios, how we do that, in one of the scenarios, there was a student teacher in our buildings that wanted to be here, and we work with our principals who see those individuals being successful with kids, and then we want to make sure that we keep them. Right? If you've been here, you want to stay, we're going to find a way to make that work. Another is someone who we actively recruited once. Her and her significant other kind of went away for a little while, and now we recruited her again. We're excited to have her back. He's like, come on back. We're going to keep you around. So, I mean, it's some of those things where, and again, that was someone who student taught with us We knew they were going to be successful in classroom. They were, and they just happened, life took them away for a little bit, and now they're back, and we're excited. So, I mean, finding those ways to keep those connections, actively recruit, finding people who want to be here in Iowa, that's such an important piece for us, and having those relationships and building those. We're really proud of the implementation of the hiring practices that support workplace diversity. Some of the things that we're doing, a lot of the hiring that goes on is done by our building leaders, so just continuing to work with them to, kind of have those practices in place that can help us continue to grow our population of kind of diversity within our buildings. That way it looks like our student populations as well. And then just continuing the advancement of our Grow Our Own initiatives. What are the things that we continue to do? Are there other things we need to be looking at to better, to help people along the way, to navigate some of the challenges that exist? We couldn't do some of these things without the partnerships that we have in place. So, whether it's the Green State Credit Union and the Iowa City Schools Foundation and the partnership and the monetary donations that they make, the work we did with the Battelle for Kids related to the Portrait of the Graduate and the Portrait of the Educator, and then also Educators Rising, the University of Iowa, and other local colleges and universities. We've really started to create quite a network of just local colleges and different groups that we're working with, and that's an important partnership to have. One of the people that we strategically recruited is because I have the opportunity to go and speak at like a UNI student-teacher event, and we can make those connections. We can know who the top talent is in those rooms and then bring it on board. So we're excited about continuing those partnerships, continuing to grow those pieces. That was one of the reasons I was willing to take on being a William Penn advisor, just so that way we had that kind of better connection as well. And one thing that we're going to highlight tonight, and it should be advertised a little more publicly here soon, is also, we actually were recognized, upcoming, we'll be recognized by the University of Iowa as one of their career impact partners. So we're excited about that. We were one of the, so not a terribly large group. They work with over 700 different employers, and we were one of the institutions that they selected as someone that they work with closely, and we have an impact on a number, so it's through the Pomerantz Center. So we're excited about just our partnership there, continuing to work with them, staying connected with them, participating in the different events that occur. So that's an exciting piece, that those connections make a difference as we work through trying to improve our hiring practices and trying to continue to diversify our staff in the way we'd like to see it. So at that point, I'll just keep it to the point of if there's any questions or anything that you're curious about related to that.
Go ahead, directors.
Nick and Matt, it's a great presentation, and we're doing great work here. You're doing great work, and I'm sure we will continue that. I want to go back to something that Matt said as you opened, that we had met President Malone, Director Finch, and myself had met with a group of LGBTQ students and their parents recently in the last week or so, I think. And I just want to make a comment, two comments. One, that the work we're doing with diversifying and empowering our staff, new staff members and existing staff members to work collaboratively together for the benefit of all students is important, and it's something that I think students see in their classrooms. The other thing is that the work the legislature is doing to harm students is having an effect on our students. The students that we talked to earlier were very open and above board about that. And I know we will do the best that we possibly can as a district at all levels to continue to protect and support all students in the district.
Thank you.
That fellow program was great. ESSER dollars paid for it. Are we going to continue that in any capacity? I know we're not going to do 13 or however many we did. We're not. But moving forward?
Yeah, Chase may want to chime in. I think we are looking at some options of how we could look at some different adaptations. Obviously, that magnitude of a full release is going to be difficult, but I think there are some things that we could take into consideration. We've been in some conversations with some other places that do some similar partial release things that might have some viability, so we need to look through that a little further. But anything else?
The one piece I'd add, JP, is that we took advantage of the ESSER dollars to create a cohort to really maximize that. We're going to take a year off and not have a cohort this year, but really look at our data and try to get a feel for, okay, if we hire X number of administrators a year, how many would be new administrators that could come out of our cohort? we don't want to put them through a program and then not have a path to leadership for them. And so making sure that it's a manageable number, one that fits inside our budget, but then also actually shows a path forward into leadership. So hopefully we will bring you a proposal next winter or next spring to reignite the program. We've seen it successful, both from our principals and the participants. So we do believe it's part of our strategy moving forward.
One thing kind of with that, sorry, Director Hack. I think too, as we kind of look at some of the positions we have in our buildings and how are those growing or creating opportunities for leaders too, you think more traditionally about some of the instructional leadership roles we've had, like instructional coaches, but we know what our principals do a lot is on the behavior and the management side. And so even as we think about, you know, our RAM concept that we're pretty accustomed to with class sizes and with classroom teacher resources, what are ways in our elementary and secondary buildings that we can also maybe RAM some other support that creates a growing or you know, kind of a opportunity ground for our leaders to grow into those principal roles or assistant principal roles beforehand, and kind of they're working next to the admin team. So I think we're also exploring opportunities for some positions that way. Now, of course, it's not just the true fellow, but there's, you know, some look-alike roles where you do some similar tasks, but then there'd be a bright line between, like, you don't do teacher evaluation or something like that, right? So I think we're also open to that, and I think that'll be a good conversation for us as a board team here to be thinking about in the next year. Knowing resources are probably going to be tied into the future here. How do we look at different kinds of resources to use that RAM philosophy in our school buildings across the board?
I have a question. This is work that the district has been dedicated to for at least as long as I've been in the district, 10 years. And the Grow Your Own was a perfect example of a solution. It's one of the solutions, and I hope we can continue to do things like that. I think, though, something we talked about, and I don't know if it was when I was on the board or a previous board, I was just here for the meeting, but we talked about recruiting. And you just mentioned it, and you mentioned some partnership opportunities. The reason why we talk about that, as I remember, and hopefully some of you were on the board when we were talking about this as a district, is that it isn't, it's, our demographic is changing in Iowa, but we don't have a ton of people of color applying for jobs at our school district. We're just not there yet. And I think that that's something that we've acknowledged as a board. Again, I don't know if I was on it at the time, but I think that's an important thing to acknowledge, that there's a built-in challenge here that we're trying to get around. And so when we say, yeah, we want to have our teachers, you know, reflect our student population, it's true, we do, but it's going to take some time because, I mean, it's not getting easier to recruit people of color to Iowa. It's not getting easier to recruit anybody to Iowa. So I just think that's something as a board we need to be thinking about when we're receiving this presentation, and I'm happy, of course, I'm happy with our dedication to this, but the challenges are big. And the recruitment process is something we've discussed before, and, you know, I don't know if there's some more invention of it, but whatever we can do, I hope we're still doing it, and I'd like more on that at some point. So I can learn more about how we're trying to attract people. It's not easy to do, but we have to keep trying.
When I think of part, sorry, Nick, the part where Nick has done a nice job has been really active with the undergraduate institutions and making those connections and building those bridges, showing up on campus when they have the hiring fairs. And, you know, he says yes to all of those opportunities and really has, I think, been able to draw on some good connections there. The other thing with what Director Hayek is talking about, I think is important for us to recognize, is that's why it takes the multi-pronged strategy. I think that's where the district has evolved in the last 5 years, is it's been a goal for a long time, but knowing the pool is something that's going to be a challenge is, okay, well, then we have to develop new strategies, and that's why we've had the focus on the Grow Our Own strategy here recently. And state politics are not becoming more friendly for people, you know, of diverse backgrounds to move to the state, and so again, you know.
Excuse me, please do not interrupt this public meeting. Thank you.
So when those situations are more difficult, then of course we're going to have to do a better job of trying to keep the people we do have here and and I think you heard Nick talk about that, right? That we have to try to keep our folks here in Iowa City and saying, hey, you can be an educator, you can be great, One of my favorite experiences when I go to Southeast and see some of the kids that were students when I was at Southeast that are now working for us there, right? And so, or at Weber Elementary, because now they know Ms. Dvorak, and so they followed Ms. Dvorak over to Weber and have started as a para for us. And so those are the celebration examples of where we can make an impact and do a different, and have a difference.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Proud. Were there any other comments from other directors? Okay, we look forward to future updates. Next up is our action items for tonight. And the first one is a resolution supporting use of SAVE revenue for an athletic facility infrastructure project. Were there any comments from directors or administrative staff?
Just a reminder that these are coming to you, and we had another public hearing tonight because of the new requirements under the SAVE dollars. And so it's something we're going to do on a more and more regular basis. We get some questions about, hey, what specific project is this related to? And it's just going to become part of our normal routine and something that'll hopefully just, kind of move along as part of our normal course of business.
Thank you.
And,
Hearing,
at our normal course of business, ensures that the money we're approving tonight to build this facility at, where is it at? Well, I guess it's several athletic facilities. We've described what we're doing, what we're going to build before in detail for the public. Is that not correct?
Yeah, these are all projects that are proposed under the FMP 2.0. So for example, a turf project to replace artificial turf that was in there, or anything of that nature, any upgrades to any athletic facility has to go through this process now based upon legislative changes. And so that's why, as Jay's just alluded to, that you're seeing these differently in the than what you have in the past, where we didn't have to put through that public hearing and give you this information ahead of time. It was all part of the bond process. It's now more upfront.
Okay, thanks.
great. If there's no additional questions, I would entertain a motion.
I move we pass a resolution supporting the use of SAVE revenue for an athletic facility infrastructure project.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Board Secretary Colvin, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Next up is our second public hearing that was held tonight. Resolution supporting the proposed issuance of approximately $76,500,000 school infrastructure sales, services, and use tax revenue and funding bonds. Were there any additional comments or discussion? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we pass a resolution supporting the proposed issuance of approximately $76,500,000 school infrastructure sales, service, and use tax revenue and refunding bonds.
Second.
Okay. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, Board Secretary Colvin, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Next up is the settlement of case number LACV 082662. Is there any discussion regarding this matter? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move we pass the settlement of case number LACV 082662.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Board Secretary Colvin, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with Directors Clausen, Malone, Eastham, Finch, and Pilcher Hayek voting yea, and Director Williams voting nay.
Thank you. Finally, is our last action item, is to set the date of May 9th, 2023 at 6 p.m. for a public hearing on the amended 2023, 24, 24, 25, and 2025, 26 district calendars. Is there any discussion? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll just highlight this one. Thanks, President Malone. Through our negotiations work with the teachers, we came to an agreement about early outs before winter break and before spring break. And so those 2-hour early outs, we'd been kind of routinely doing a 2-hour early out before winter break. This really just codifies it into the calendar that those days we will no longer certify for those instructional hours that are over the threshold. We already certify a number of hours over the 1080. And so those hours are only going to become problematic for us in the future if we'd have a lot of snow days and dip back below that 1080, and then we would maybe have to make those up. But right now, we haven't gotten into that spot. We did analysis, and it looked at like we were usually had about 4 or 5 hours after we made it through the winter season to give the last several years. And so, and that was with the consideration of already doing the 2-hour winter break early release that, of course, got subtracted from the total when we did that. So this is something we'll start for next year, but we also previewed the other calendars there in front of you because we see this going into the future for us. So any questions I can answer on that?
I know we're just setting the hearing date on this. When we vote for the calendar, I'm such a visual person, and I think some of our parents are visual people. If we could get a different color shade for those early out days to put on, I know that it lists it under events, but I think that that's gonna, I think we just want to highlight it more for parents, so I don't know what color, I'm sure you
we can
guys
do
can,
that.
but like, we can just tag those, the 20th and then the spring break day with a color, so it's on people's radar.
I think the other thing we talked about is putting the reasons for the no school days as well.
Yeah, and that may appear on a different calendar that we put on the website. So the one that we have you guys approve here for the hearing, but we'll probably have another calendar that breaks down those reasons because that gets really busy and really full about the different reasons and the different shades and the different colors. But for this one, the most simplistic one about certifying the hours that are required by the state, we'll try to keep this one pretty basic, but then we'll have the additional level of detail on the website.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we set the date of May 9th, 2023 at 6 p.m. for a public hearing on the amended 2023-24, 2024-25, and 2025-26 district calendars.
Second?
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Board Secretary Coven, we are ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. That takes us to our legislative updates. I don't know if Superintendent Degner, you wanted to start?
Yeah, I just have a couple things to draw your attention to that you're probably aware of by now. Last week, the legislature passed Senate File 391 and Senate File 496. 391 is the Chapter 12 flexibility bill that we've talked about a few different times at the board table. There's some nice pieces in here for us as far as flexibility with something like eliminating the comprehensive school improvement plan. We really already have goal setting plans and approaches to be able to do that, and this will focus on the ESSA requirements. There's some other flexibility pieces in here that we as the Iowa City Community School District may not take advantage of right away, but that are helpful for small rural districts across the state that are struggling to fill positions or find people even to apply for those jobs. And so there's some licensure changes that will free up some flexibility there. It allows for virtual snow days, up to 5 days or 30 hours of virtual learning in the school calendar. So again, that could be an option if we would maybe dip below the 1080. I don't really see us at this point building those into the calendar, but it'd be something to talk about in the future. There's some flexibility for concurrent instruction if teachers are teaching a community college course or multi-levels of courses, some increased flexibility that way. The financial literacy component is also something that we had to build in kind of a standalone for that we'll be able to move away from potentially. Some of these we're still going to have to work with our teams to figure out how we'd want to implement them, additional flexibility around PE, some components like that. And then there's also some standards changes or things that should or should not be taught that of course we'll work through as well in that Chapter 12 piece. But more flexibility given, I would say, is the overall message from that bill. And then the large bill, Senate File 496, is the governor's kind of omnibus bill, as we've referred to it. And here is where you get into things like the health curriculum, the library program, which what I really wanted to draw, we were going to do a material selection process presentation tonight and talk about our material selection process. This is fundamentally going to change some of that selection process, and so we didn't want to necessarily have the librarians come up and talk to you about a bunch of information that is really going to change in the next few months here. So this bill has not yet been signed unless something happened here today that I didn't catch the news on. And I don't think there's too many parts of this that are enforceable upon enactment, so there'd be a better, hopeful glide path for us to be able to, again, work with staff, students, and families about what this means. A part I know that, we know that students are concerned about is that, or that we have some students concerned about is the use of pronouns or asking for accommodation. If, per se, they'd be a trans student and they ask for an accommodation, then the teacher would need to inform the administrator would need to inform the family. If they don't do that, then it's a report to the Board of Education or educational examiners. So we need to work with our staff on understanding what that requirement is and also what options for students are, or understanding what the consequences of asking for an accommodation per se could be. And so there would be some heavy parts of this bill for us to continue to work through as a school district. I think I already mentioned the health curriculum. There's instructional materials pieces that we need to look at, a lot of focused on parents' rights and transparency of information. So there's a lot there, and I could probably talk to you for the next half hour on some of that, but I'm not going to do that. So I think the best update for us will be usually in July. We get the rules from the Board of Educational Examiners, and then either at a P&G or a regular meeting, we'll need to come back and talk to you guys about these are some of the changes you're going to see in our staff training and for the school district this year.
Thank you, Superintendent Degner. Were there any questions from directors for him or any comments?
This just occurred to me, President Malone, and I know we haven't talked about it as a board yet, but I hope as a board we can work our way through these various requirements well before the start of the fall term,
Right.
so that students will be aware of what changes that they may be asked to make, as
Right.
well as the staff.
And I think that was the piece Superintendent Degner was mentioning, that we need to wait for some more guidance and rules and guidelines, so then that way we as a board and the school district can work through those to set up our students and staff to be as successful as possible in following those.
Right. So I think that was one aspect of the conversation that you and Director Finch and I had with students, is that they just want to understand what changes that they are going to be asked to make as soon as possible. So.
Agreed.
Maybe even, as that guidance comes out, like a summer retreat kind of a topic. I mean, there's certainly a lot to tackle, and it'd be.
Yeah, I'll be honest, our concern is how quickly or effectively the DE will be able to turn around rules. I mean, there's a hefty amount of work ahead of the Department of Ed, just with the rules that have been, or the law that's been written and the rules that they'll have to turn around and write, and then getting that to us in a timely fashion, and then being able to work with our legal counsel about questions we have about interpreting those rules. If there's any legal challenges, which I think some are expected to occur with these laws, and then what do we do in that interim status? And so we have some work ahead of us from the library piece, from the LGBTQ plus piece, from the curriculum piece. I mean, there's some big components of this law.
Agreed. Thank you. Finally, it takes us to agenda setting, and our next set of meetings will be on May 9th. First up will be the Operations Committee meeting, and it looks like you'll be talking about discretionary busing.
Yes, attendance support busing is what I'm always reminded to call it, but attendance support busing on May 9th, yes.
Great. And that takes us to our regular agenda, and we have the regular standing items. It will be the last student representative update from those group of students that we've had with us all year, so just throwing that out there for folks, followed by an ICEA update, consent agenda, any public hearings, policy review will be on our agenda again. We'll vote on that, and I don't know, well, we'll have our quarterly financial report. And do you think by then we'll have more information from the librarians, but probably not till this summer?
Yeah, I don't think we'd probably want them to present before the end of this school year. I think we're going to wait till this summer or the fall, because this is really going to dictate some of that selection process and change that. I know Lisa Petrie, our library coordinator, would be happy to share any information or questions you may have, in the next few weeks or the next couple months. But as far as a presentation, I don't really feel comfortable putting them on the spot to answer those questions yet.
Sounds good. Were there any additional information or items?
Or Ruthina Jane, I think.
Sure. I know we talked about this about a year and a half ago at an education meeting, the math curriculum and acceleration. So I don't know if that's something that we might want to put in an education meeting coming up, some questions that have arisen about that placement process and the curriculum in general, I think. Yep.
So would that be possible for education, or do you think at May's meeting?
I think we have a topic for May.
Okay.
Be happy to answer specific questions anybody has about the math placement process. I think we did something, like you said, was it over a year
like
ago?
a year and a
It was
half
like
ago, yeah.
spring. Yeah, I think it was last spring that we talked about that placement process. I know we've gotten one email from a parent on it, so if you guys have questions on that, I'd be happy to talk about that. But I know we have a topic for May, and then we usually don't do Ed Committee June or July. So if you guys wanted that as a topic on another meeting, we could definitely do it
Okay.
at that time too.
Sounds good. Anything else? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.